Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience, and thank you so much for joining today's informational webinar for the Re-X Before Recycling Prize. We are excited that you are here, and we're looking forward to telling you all about this amazing opportunity. My name is Kaylee Isaacs, and I am from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. I'm the prize administrator for the Re-X Prize Before Recycling Prize, excuse me. And I am joined today by Kate Peretti from the U.S. Department of Energy Advanced Materials and Manufacturing Technologies Office. A few housekeeping items before we dive in. First, we have two options for audio. You can either listen through your computer or you can listen through your phone. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please utilize the Q&A feature. We are going to try to answer as many questions as able, but all questions will be answered in writing and will be posted onto HeroX. If you have any trouble with today's webinar, please feel free to chat the webinar host and panelists, and we will try our best to assist you. Lastly, we will also be posting a recording of today's webinar along with the slides after today's presentation onto HeroX. For our agenda today, we'll plan to cover the following: the background of the Re-X Before Recycling Prize, an overview of the prize, phase 1 and what you need to know, phase 2 and 3 and what to expect if you are selected, how to get started, and then we will be answering questions if we have time. The Re-X Before Recycling Prize was established by the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy and the Advanced Materials and Manufacturing Technologies Office. The prize is a part of the American Made Challenges program and is administered by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. To help you be successful for the prize, please make sure you read the official prize rules before applying. The prize rules are available on our American Made Challenges website, as well as HeroX. We have these two links here, and we'll post the HeroX into the chat. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Kate Peretti from AMTO, who will be providing some background on the prize. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Kaylee. Yeah, so Re-X Before Recycling. So we know that our current manufacturing sector and just honestly, way of life is make, take, waste. So it's a linear model that produces materials, we use them, and then we dispose of them. And what that leads to is, constant resource extraction and just piling up of goods with, frankly, we're putting a lot of energy and a lot of emissions just in the landfill. And so what we would like to do is transfer that paradigm to a more circular economy where the model reuses the materials and those material goods are able to be put back into the use phase and in some part of that supply chain to be able to be used again and again. This is a necessary step of decarbonizing our economy, which is a big emphasis for the Department of Energy. And so but these supply chains largely don't exist. And so, we really need to be thoughtful about creating these supply chain, connecting all of the pieces along the supply and value chain to be able to enable these new pathways. So recycling, most of us are familiar with recycling as a circular economy pathway, and it is a critically important role and a pathway to getting goods back into the economy. However, there are other circular economy pathways that we should be thoughtful about employing before we get to recycling. Recycling is kind of the last ditch when the materials aren't good enough to be reused, repurposed, or remanufactured. And so this prize is really attempting to establish those supply chains for the reuse, repair, repurpose, and remanufacturing pathways before materials degrade to the point where they need to be recycled. So next slide. All right. So talked a little bit about where the Department of Energy's interests are here, and we attempted to design the prize to really stimulate innovation that enables these supply chains to be existed and hopefully leads to private investment so that these supply chains will sort of be deployed and exist out in the world. Really trying to transform waste streams into value streams. We're looking, again, to stimulate innovation. So seeking those innovations that unlock these supply chains. So what are the challenges that are preventing these supply chains from existing today? And what are the technologies that could unlock them and make them, economically viable and, and more efficient and all of those really great things. All right, next slide. We do want to emphasize that, we're looking for reuse, repair, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and or repurposing before recycling. So recycling is not a piece of this prize. All right, I think I'm handing it back over to Kaylee.
Thanks, Kate. Now that we have some background on how the prize came to be, let's get into what the prize is. The REX Before Recycling prize is a $5.6 million prize with a total of $4.5 million in cash prizes and $1.1 million in technical assistance from national laboratories. The prize is designed to spur innovations to extend the lifetimes of products or parts to overcome difficulties with transitioning the U.S. from a linear to a more circular economy. The REX Before Recycling prize has 3 phases: identify, prepare, and develop. Phase 1, Identify opened on November 27th and runs through March 12th. In this phase, competitors will identify a new or expanded REX supply chain opportunity, including potential community benefits, and create a plan to develop the innovation needed to realize the opportunity. In phase 2, competitors will begin deepening their insight into the opportunity, refining their plan, and activating a network of partners to help advance their innovation. And in phase 3, competitors will continue to progress to execute their plan and prepare for how they will continue their innovation post-prize. As mentioned previously, this is a $5.6 million prize. And the table here on this slide details the prize amounts for each of the 3 phases, as well as how long each of the phases are and how many winners will be selected. In phase 1, winners will receive $50,000 in cash per winner and up to $5,000 of analyst consulting to use in phase 2. Phase 2, winners will receive $150,000 in cash per winner and up to $100,000 in analyst technical support to use in phase 3. In phase 3, winners will receive $500,000 in cash per winner. In total, each competitor has the opportunity to win up to $700,000 in cash and $105,000 in national laboratory support, which is really great. And Kate, back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Kaylee. So just describing a little bit about the analytical and technical assistance that we're providing as an award through the prize. So basically the national labs have pretty strong capabilities for life cycle analysis, or LCA, or techno-economic analysis, abbreviated TEA. And so what we hope to do is provide in, as part of the phase 1 award, some consulting benefit to access support on either of these metrics. So LCA is really assessing the environmental impacts, could be across a variety of dimensions, associated with the entire life cycle of that product or process. So if we looked back at that diagram from resource extraction all the way through use, but we want to look at what the benefits are of rather than diverting to waste and having to start fresh from new resources, what benefits we are going to realize by taking a different pathway, whether it be reuse, repair, repurpose. So that's the purpose of the LCA work. And so and then the techno-economic analysis is really better understanding where the economic performance is of the technology, and looking at a full process, or looking at all of the aspects of the technologies that you're proposing, and identifying maybe where the most bang for your buck, if you focus on fixing this one issue, either you'll unlock much more economic benefit or environmental benefit, to help the teams really focus on solving the right problems to be able to have the impacts that we're interested in having. So, after phase 1 of the prize, there's sort of a modest, consulting ability for you to tap into the National Lab resources. At the end of phase 2, there will be more extensive support from the National Labs available to do a much more in-depth analysis along these lines. Next slide. All right, so we've got 2 topic areas as part of the prize. One is really looking at established waste streams. So kind of, if you think about, commodity streams that are available today, and commodity products that are produced at pretty substantial quantities. If the emerging waste streams is really looking more at maybe things that are being produced at greater rates today, but will be, accumulating in our waste streams maybe down the line. But we want to have, we want to work to establish those circular pathways to be able to make sure that once those products are hitting our waste streams, we know how to get them, back into the value chain. So, conceptually, if you think about an easy example for established waste streams are, plastic takeout containers, for example. Those are very commonly used items today. When we think about emerging waste streams, we're thinking about, car batteries, for example, as we produce more and more EVs. Although that's not a good example, because I think we've excluded that particular item, but fine. Think about, solar cells, PV solar cells. We've started making and installing them at greater rates, but 15, 20 years down the line, those are going to be accumulating in our waste streams. And at that point, we want to have processes in place to be able to manage those streams to reuse or repair or what have you. Next slide. All right, so I mentioned that recycling is not of interest, but we are interested in these other pathways. So this reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and repurpose. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Michelle, for correcting me. So batteries are in scope for the prize. So that was a good example. Okay, so these are the pathways that we're trying to incentivize through this this prize. And do want to highlight that you know, we're interested in enabling either new, never been done before, you know, value chains, supply chains, or expanded. So something works really great in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we think there that we could, you know, replicate this really innovative and impactful value chain in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so yeah, I think on the next slide, maybe we can get a little bit more into the examples. Yeah, so again, I'm not gonna go through all of these examples. They are on the HeroX website and in the rules. But yeah, again, there are some examples here, like I was saying, replicating and improving some existing pathways. So the establishment of a community reuse program in a new location when it was successful somewhere else, or deploying new technologies to establish new supply chains that are enabled by advanced sorting, for example, that can reduce cost and increase the amount of products that are collected and actually reused. Next slide. All right, so what are we not interested in? We're not interested in innovations or approaches that rely on recycling. So if you're thinking about, it kind of bleeds into the second bullet, which is we are interested in redesign, but only if it unlocks the reuse, repair, refurbish, repurpose, the value chains that we're interested in incentivizing, not if it's being redesigned for recycling. And then the other thing is that we're sort of excluding here is really targeting food, yard, and organic agricultural waste. We're really more focused on manufactured goods. Next slide.
Thanks, Kate.
Yep.
Yeah. So as Kate said, you can find all of those examples as well as what is in scope and out of scope in the official prize rules. So again, encourage you to read those rules before you apply so you understand what is what we're looking for and what we're not looking for. In terms of eligibility, the REX before recycling prize is open to individuals and teams of individuals, private entities, which can be for-profits and nonprofits, as well as non-federal government entities, which could be states, counties, tribes, municipalities, and academic institutions. You can read more about the full eligibility in the prize rules. Let's talk more about Phase 1, Identify. The two goals of Phase 1 Identify are opportunity innovation, identification, and plan development. By the end of this phase, you should identify an innovation that, if implemented in a new or expanded REX supply chain, would deliver substantial environmental, economic, and community benefits, and develop a plan to advance the identified innovation from its current state towards implementation in a viable REX supply chain. Up to 20 winners will be selected at the end of this phase, and selected winners will receive $50,000 in cash and up to $5,000 in analyst consultation from a national lab. The first phase is currently open with a submission deadline through March 12th of 2024 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're anticipating announcing these winners in April of 2024. For your Phase 1 submission package, you will need to submit a cover page, a 90-second online video, a summary slide of your submission, an analyst support work slide, and a narrative. There are only 2 items here that will be made public, which is the online video and your submission summary slide. Additionally, only one of these items is scored, which is the narrative. The first requirement is the cover page. This information will be collected through HeroX, through the HeroX submission form, and it is not a separate document upload on this slide. And this is also in the rules, has the information that you will need to list in the cover page. And so you'll notice that there is also the link to the 90-second online video. So you'll create that video and you'll include the link in your cover page. And more on that 90-second online video. This is that next requirement. And your video should answer the question, what is your innovation? You should make sure that you post your video publicly and it is accessible. We recommend that you focus on the required content and not on the production quality. And as a reminder, this video will be made public. The third requirement for your submission is a summary slide about your submission. It should contain technically specific details, but can be understood by most people. There is no template, so you can have any format. It will be, again, a PowerPoint slide, but will need to be made as a PDF, and it will be made public. Your next submission requirement is the analyst support work slide. This should briefly describe any analyst that your team has already done, describe how the technical support and consultation for analysts from a national lab will help your team, identify which types of analysts would provide the most insight, and list your top 3 choices out of the 5 identified national labs. And again, all this information is included into the official rules. The purpose of the analyst support work slide is to facilitate matching winning teams with appropriate national lab analyst consulting during phase 2. The last required submission item is the narrative. In the narrative, you should answer these 5 questions: the opportunity, innovation, accomplishments and team plan, and community benefits plan. Each section question has suggested content along with the judging criteria. Your narrative should not exceed more than 2,500 words. And you may also add up to 5 supporting images, figures, or graphs. There is a template for you to use. You can find it on, you can find it on HeroX under the resources tab. On the slide, you can see where we have this link. And this narrative, again, will be scored, and I will get into that scoring in just a moment. One thing we would like to highlight from the narrative is the community benefits plan. Your community benefits plan should be considered as you identify your innovation and develop your plan to advance your innovation. Your narrative must address the community benefits plan and must address at least one of the following topic areas in your plan, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, environmental justice, and workforce implications. You can find more information about these topics in Appendix B in the official rules. As part of your narrative, you will be asked to identify and justify appropriate target metrics for your innovation and REX supply chain. To be successful, you should demonstrate pathways by which your innovation will reduce waste, promote greater resource productivity, show cost competitiveness, advance resiliency to resource scarcity issues in the future, and reduce environmental impacts of production and consumption. We have provided some example metrics to help guide your metrics. You can find more information in Appendix C in the official rules. In the narrative, each section is weighted, and here's how you can read the scoring rubric to ensure success. In the left column will be the topic you are addressing, as well as the weight percentage for that section. In this example, we have innovation as the topic, and it is a 20% weighted of your total score. In the middle column is the suggested content to provide. There are several suggested content bullets you could provide to address the judging criteria. And lastly, in the right column is what your score will be based on. You will see the judging criteria that reviewers will use to score your submission. Each submission will be reviewed by a panel of reviewers who will score and provide comments. Expert reviewers will evaluate your submission by assigning a single score, 0 through 5, for each scored submission section based on their overall agreement or disagreement with a series of statements, which is strongly disagree to strongly disagree. The final score from an individual reviewer will be calculated based on the weighting shown. All reviewer scores will then be averaged for a final reviewer score for the submission package. DOE is the final judge and will make selections based on reviewer scores and comments, as well as program policy factors. Additionally, the prize administration team may decide to hold interviews with teams to clarify any questions or information before announcement of winners. Interviews are not an indication of winning, and you can find a full list of those program policy factors on page 39 of the official rules. All right, now that you know how to submit for phase 1, let's do a quick demo of HeroX, which is our prize platform, and what you will be submitting through. We will drop a link to HeroX in the chat, and I encourage you to follow along with me as I show you how to sign up for the prize, where to find key information, and other helpful resources. All right, on here, this is the HeroX page. And we first have the summary. So this gives you some general information about the REAP-X before recycling prize, as well as our structure. So you can read more about those, each of those phases here. And then you can also see there's a link to our official rules. Up on top on the next tab on timeline, you can see where we are at for each of our deadlines and when next phases are opening and so forth. So this will continuously be updated. So if you're interested in when deadlines are or have any questions about the timeline, please go to this tab. On updates, we'll post important information regarding the prize here. Our forum is where you can post your questions about the prize. If you have anything regarding eligibility, something maybe you can't find in the prize or just want to clarify a question, please post it here on the challenge forum. You can also see where we are posting questions that we've already received through email here. So your question may have already been answered. Teams, this is where our teams are signing up. Entries, when you are wanting to do your entry, this is where you'll see it. Resources here, this is a very helpful tab. This is where you'll find the official rules here. You'll find also the narratives for each of the phases, the templates for those phases. And then in phase 3, we have another template. FAQs, we have some more. If you have some questions, you can find some of those answers here. Power connectors, I'll describe some of our power connectors later on in this presentation, but you can come to this to contact our power connectors. They're here to support you through the prize, answer any questions regarding your submission, and help guide you, as well as help you with teaming. Teaming is a great aspect and resource for this prize. If you are interested in applying for this prize, but maybe want to partner with another organization, team, business, individual, I would encourage you to go to our teaming tab here and fill out our form to get started. And then you can access the database, the spreadsheet, to find other teams, organizations, individuals who are interested in the prize and if they are a good fit for you. Now, to use HeroX, you will have to create a login and you'll need to follow this prize. So you'll hit solve this challenge here and you'll accept our agreement. And then you'll create your team. If you can create one of those options. For this purposes, I just have the individual. And then once you do that, you'll see this begin entry here and click on here. And this is when you can start doing your submission. You'll see that we have some eligibility acknowledgements that will be required. And then here's the cover page that I was talking about earlier as part of your submission requirement. So again, this is not a separate upload form. This is done through HeroX that you'll fill this information out. And then here is where you'll upload your narrative, upload your submission summary slide, upload your analyst support work slide, and then a couple more questions that we have for you. And then you can save and preview. So you can come back to this at any time before the deadline. So you have plenty of time to come back to it and fill out this information. That is the HeroX platform. If you have any questions regarding that, again, please let us know, and we're happy to assist on it.
Yeah, so,
All right. So now that you know how to apply for this prize and what to know for phase 1, let's talk about what to expect for phase 2 and 3. So during phase 2, prepare, we will be focusing on deepening insight by leveraging national lab support, refining your plan to advance your innovation towards implementation, and cultivating a network of mentors and partners to help you advance your innovation. In this phase, you do not need to be a winner of phase 1 to compete in this phase. This phase is open to any competitor as long as they meet the eligibility requirements. So if you do not win phase 1, you can apply again for phase 2. In this phase, winners will have the opportunity to win $150,000 in cash and up to $100,000 in analyst technical assistance from a national lab. For our timeline for phase 2 prepare, we are anticipating launching in April with an expected submission deadline in October of 2024. And from April to October, the phase 1 winners will receive their $5,000 of analyst consultation from a national lab, and they can use during this time frame. So from April to October, they'll be using that $5K. And we're anticipating announcing these winners in November. For similar to phase 1, competitors will be submitting 5 items for phase 2. They'll be submitting a cover page, a 90-second online video, submission summary slide, analyst support work slide, and narrative. Again, please note that the online video and summary slide will be made public. You can find more information about these requirements in the official rules. During phase 3 develop, we will be focusing on demonstrating your innovation is making progress and executing the plan, ensuring your innovation can be implemented through your partnerships, and developing a long-term plan for your innovation so your innovation will be successful post-prize. In this phase, you must be a winner of phase 2 to compete in this phase. So if you did not win phase 2, you cannot apply for phase 3. Only those winners of phase 2 can be a part of this phase. And in this phase, 4 winners will be selected and will have the opportunity to win up to $500 in cash. So there is no technical assistance support from a national laboratory in this phase to win. For our phase 3 developed timeline, we're anticipating launching in January of 2025 with an expected submission deadline in December of 2025. So, and from January to December, the phase 2 winners will receive their $100,000 in technical assistance for analyst for analyst support from a national laboratory to use during phase 3. So from January to December, they'll be working with those national labs. And then we're anticipating announcing these winners in January of 2026. In phase 3, competitors will be submitting 6 items. It'll be a cover page, a 90-second online video, a submission summary slide, a committed partnership or support letter, the environmental questionnaire, and a narrative. Again, please note that the online video and the submission summary slide will be made public, and the narrative will be scored for this. The committed partnership or support letter is required. It will not be scored. It does not have a scoring weighted score for it, but it is required for your narrative, and we will be looking at that for it. And you can find more information about these requirements in the official rules. All right, so now that you know more about the prize, here's how you can get started today. As I had briefly mentioned during the HeroX demo, we have our resource or Power Connectors are a resource for you. Power Connectors can support competitors by answering your questions about the prize, providing feedback on your submission materials, and providing general support for your submission just about the prize. Again, helping you connect with other teams, organizations, individuals, etc., to submit a submission together. We have 2 Power Connectors that you can connect with. We have Ensemble and Yet2. This slide has their contact information, but you can also find it on HeroX under the Power Connectors tab. And if you're interested in connecting with other competitors to form a team and submit your submission package together, we recommend, again, you check out our teaming tab on HeroX. You can fill out a form with some questions to get started, and then access a spreadsheet with other interested competitors to find a match that might be best suited for you. So really recommend you checking that out and filling out your form, even if maybe you don't know if you want to do teaming. Still a great resource to connect with other individuals, organizations, businesses, etc., that are interested in this prize. So follow these next steps to get started. First, follow the prize on HeroX. You'll want to read the official rules. Again, I cannot state reiterate how important it is to read the official rules. You'll find more information about what we're looking for, more information on the submission materials, and just make sure that you're eligible to apply for this prize. And once you have read the official rules, you can submit your submission. Make sure that you submit your submission by March 12th of 2024 by 5 p.m. Eastern time. We will not be accepting late submissions, so make sure you get it in early, especially doing it the day before. At least I would encourage you, because you never know of technical issues. We want to make sure that you can get your submission in on time. And if you have any additional questions, you can post your question to the HeroX forum. It's another great resource for you. Utilize a Power Connector for support. They are amazing and they will help you for this prize. Or you can message us directly at before.recycling@nrel.gov. All right, now it is time. Now it is time for our Q&A. If you would like to ask a question, please utilize the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We don't have a chat function. This is the only way that you can interact with us, is through that Q&A portion. Q&A questions may be answered live, but all questions will be answered in writing on HeroX, and we'll post them after the webinar in a few days. All right, so I'm looking at some of our questions now. So we have some answered questions that have written responses already in here. And in terms of some of our open questions here.
I will say there seems to be some confusion in the questions about recycling, what's considered recycling, and whether recycling technologies are in or out. So we are excluding recycling from the scope of this prize. So technologies that enable recycling pathways are out of scope. Technologies that recycle other pathways that are described in the rules are in scope. And so what do we consider recycling? I would say recycling is effectively a change in the shape or composition to create a material feedstock. So through recycling processes, you are not ending with a product. That product requires further transformation. It is more of a feedstock, and hopefully that's helpful. Let's see, I'm just looking at, there's a lot of answered questions, so I would encourage you to scan through the answered questions. I see, I'm just going to walk down the questions that are unanswered. One area of interest of the REX Prize is to improve access to wastes and markets via improved data and analysis, logistics, and collection. With the development and implementation of a program that provides assistance to a variety of manufacturers and businesses to help them increase circularity in their supply chain be considered an innovation under the REX Prize. If there is an innovation and it improves or enables REX pathways through logistics support or collection technologies, then I would say yes, but it's a little bit of it depends, in my opinion. So I would per Kaylee's recommendation, I would read the rules pretty thoroughly and assess whether or not your innovation would be in scope. Can a team or person, or can a team include persons or organizations from basically other countries that are not of concern? I would also maybe defer to the prize rules on whether or not that's in scope and out of scope. Kaylee, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I would just add, please read the rules for the full eligibility. It has those details in there. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah. May I host a community event to call inventors and choose one of those to use for this process, or is that frowned upon? I would say that you're doing our job for us in publicizing this prize through doing so. So I would encourage you to do that. And there's another questions about, restrictions on how you spend the money. So you are awarded at the end of having completed work, right? So, so we aren't telling you how to spend your money. We are just saying we're not going to give you money unless you have demonstrated the things that are in the application materials for each of those phases, if that makes sense. And there's a pretty extensive, in the prize rules, there's pretty extensive sort of criteria for how we are judging submissions at each phase. And so I would say that is the requirement to receive funding. And so we have no real control over what you do leading up to that. Would it be accurate to say that the goal of phase 1 identify is to develop a proof of concept for the idea? I don't know. I see Michelle is typing an answer. Do you want to come off mute, Michelle? And
yes, I can attempt to answer this for phase 1. First, I'm going to refer you to the prize rules. You can tell we'd really like you to read those closely. But in section 2, you'll find a description of what we're asking you to focus on in phase 1. And if you refer to the judging rubric, you will see kind of what we will be evaluating the submissions on. But the idea for phase 1 is that you're identifying both an opportunity. So why is this going to be impactful if the supply chain is created or expanded, and an innovation that will allow that expansion. And you'll be developing and submitting your plan for how to advance that innovation and realize the supply chain. But please refer to the rules for kind of a further description of each of the phases.
Okay. There's two questions in here about effectively building materials, construction materials. Construction materials are in scope, and using old materials to make building materials looks either like reuse or repurpose. So I would look at the definition of those in the rules, but and make that determination for yourself, but that looks to be in scope. The list of experts. So what's happening with the experts at the National Lab right now is that we've got a team lead, and we are working to sort of assemble a team. The expertise of that team that we are assembling is specifically, we're looking for LCA and TEA support and capabilities there. And so I would say that is the expertise that that the National Lab experts will have, and the type of support that you can expect from them. In phase one, that is going to be at a much higher level than the phase two support. Michelle, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just in some other prizes, you may be familiar more with the voucher process, where you select and identify the experts that you'll be working with in the National Lab. This prize will be run slightly differently. We will have a pool of expertise, and we will take your submissions related to analysis and use that to match you with some of your resources. So you don't just get to pick who you want to work with, but we will have kind of an internal matching process. But all winning teams will be provided the same level of support and access to the National Lab's expertise. And in terms of analysis, we expect that the main focus will be LCA and TEA, but in that consulting phase with the labs, you can discuss if there are also different analysis approaches, such as material flow inventories, that may also bring value.
And just to jump on that too, in phase one and in phase two, we ask for that analyst support work slide from you as a submission requirement. And this is for you to help us so we can match you to an appropriate lab.
Yeah, there's a question in here about disbursement of funds, and I would defer to Kaylee on that one.
Yeah. So typically we have paperwork for you to fill out, and depending on how quickly you get that back to us, we can get the funds to you. It takes about, to be honest, 3 to 4 weeks for the funds to get to you once we have that paperwork and it's been approved and begins that process. So I would just say that the quicker you get the paperwork to us, the quicker we can get your funds to you.
Okay, yeah, there's a question about design tools that are accessible to manufacturers to be able to support, basically redesign for REX. I would just defer you to looking at the rules. I could, depending on the details, I could see it being in scope. I could see it out of scope. So it's hard for me to make a judgment without more information there. Can an organization apply as a solo project as well as part of a team? I believe we are only accepting one lead submission. I would defer. No, okay. Yeah, Michelle, keep me honest.
I'm going to refer everyone to the eligibility section of the prize rules that describes how many applications you can be the lead on. And Kaylee, I don't know if you have an additional comment there. Otherwise, it is spelled out in the eligibility section.
Yes, I will just say, yes, please read the prize rules. It is laid out there, but essentially that if you are a lead entity, organization on one submission. You cannot be a lead entity on a second submission. So, but again, it spells that out into the rules. So please read that.
There's a question about how to apply, and yeah, I would defer to Kaylee on sort of the mechanism for application, but I think I believe it's through the HeroX platform.
Yes, it's through the HeroX. You cannot apply for the prize outside of HeroX, so you will have to create an account on HeroX and apply through that platform there. And just if this is the question regarding how can a team member from a university apply for this prize, should one team member open an account? And yes, so that's the only way is one team member would apply on behalf of the university.
Michelle, it looks like you're interested in answering the power connectors question.
I was interested in having Kaylee answer the power connector question.
Yeah, so for power connectors, they're a resource for you. So you can ask them questions about the prize. So maybe you have questions in regards to what is in scope or out of scope, and they can help you determine if your innovation is in scope or out of scope. They can review your submission materials. They can't give you any written feedback, but they can give you a general feedback on, you might want to review the scoring rubric and make sure you're answering those questions there. So they can help you in those terms. They can, again, also help you connect with other teams, companies, nonprofits, individuals, etc. That might be best suited for you to apply for this prize. So they do a wide variety, but they're here to support our competitors.
There's a question about a requirement to produce a prototype, and again, we're going to point to the prize rules as the submission requirements for each phase. I will say that we wanted to leave this prize pretty open to what type of innovation would, enable these circular pathways, and so not all of them would have prototyping as part of that innovation. So yeah, I would point you to the application materials required for each phase to answer definitively that question. There are a handful of questions about eligibility and yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, but really should take a look at the section on eligibility of the prize rules. I don't know the UEI or the SAM question. Kaylee, do you have an answer?
I don't. Is a UEI or SAM account required for submission? The only thing that's required for your submission, I mean, you have to create an account on HeroX. If you're talking about like if it needs to be a university email address or something, we don't have that as like a requirement, but you have to, in order to apply for this prize, you have to create an account onto HeroX. I think, Kate, that's most of our questions. Again, we appreciate your time and your interest in applying for this prize. We will be posting all of these questions that have been asked here on the Q&A and be posting written answers for you on HeroX, so you can access those questions. You'll see those in a couple of days. Probably by next week, you'll see those questions and those answers. So thank you everybody for attending this webinar. We appreciate it, and we hope to see your innovations. Oh, yeah. Thanks all.
All right, thanks everyone.